MLB just sent out a memo to teams to expect there to not be a DH in the 2021 season. In this video, I'm going to talk about that report that there may not be no DH this season and how that impacts the Mets and the rest of free agency for certain players I really want to talk about. In this video, I also want to cover Rachel Luba, Trevor Bauer's agent, mentioning that Bauer is definitely a landing spot for the New York Mets because he likes what they're doing. So I'm definitely going to touch on both of those subjects in this video. So if you guys like this kind of video, talking about the different reports, different rumors, everything going on, make sure to leave a like, comment. What do you think about this decision by MLB that there probably won't be a DH? How does that affect the way you may want the Mets to approach this offseason? Now, also, what do you think about the Trevor Bauer report? I know everybody's not crazy about him because of his high career ERA, but for me, I look at ceiling, and I just feel that Trevor Bauer has the most upside of all these free agent pitchers because Bauer at his best could be a Cy Young caliber pitcher, could dominate the Braves in the postseason series. Meanwhile, all these other guys at their best, I just don't think it's as good as Trevor Bauer. That's just my opinion. You know, everybody has their own opinion on all these different players. I'm curious to hear what your guys' opinions on that are. And make sure to subscribe. We hit 400 subscribers, so now we're working our way to 500. Let's keep talking in the comment section and keep the channel growing. So let's talk about this report, potentially no DH. This definitely is a big deal for the Mets, no doubt about it, because the way I looked at the team, it's like, okay, well, you know what, who's going to play where? Now that really changes things, because the way the Mets are currently constructed, the lineup you can put out there is whoever at catcher, hopefully James McCann. Then you have Alonso, McNeil, Jimenez or Rosario at short. You have JD at third. Then Dom in left, Nimmo in center, Conforto in right. So you have a team. You know, it's not a great defensive team by any means, but it still is a team. And if you get at least a catch that can hit a little bit, you will have a good lineup. You know, I definitely think that is something that is encouraging for the Mets. I do like that part. But I do think it changes the way you could approach everything a little bit. One of the big things for me, following this report, I am more on board for a Francisco Lindor trade because what I was concerned about the potential Lindor trades, it looks like you would have to give up 2 major league players. And if that's the case, you're down 2 spots in your lineup. And don't forget, Cano is out for the season, so you're now down 3 players. If there was a DH, that's now 4 spots you have to cover. And I just felt that number-wise, it wouldn't work out for the Mets because it's like, okay, if you traded for Lindor, you still have to sign a catcher, maybe still need to sign a center fielder, somebody like George Springer, and then it's like you would need to sign another person to probably be your DH. From a number standpoint, it just didn't look like it would work out because don't forget, when you're trading for Lindor, you also want to give him a huge contract extension. That's already one big salary number. You still have to sign a catcher, so that's another portion of your salary right there. And then if you want to do anything for the rotation, which the Mets have to do, they have 2 openings there. I mean, that's a lot of your money right there. So I just felt that there would be a lot of moves, and you still are a 1 roster spot short. You would need someone to DH. So I just felt that if you got Lindor, you need to make so many other moves. Now, that's 1 less move you have to make. If you got Lindor and you got the catcher and you got the starting pitcher, I think it would be asking a lot for the Mets to get Lindor, Springer, Bauer, and a catcher. I think it would make it more like Lindor, Bauer, or Lindor, Springer. You know, and maybe there could be this potential now. There could be Lindor, Springer, Odorizzi, who's a guy we hear a lot about. And Jake Odorizzi is a guy who I'm not too crazy about. Jake Odorizzi had his injuries last year, and I just felt that, you know, his 1 good year, 3.5, I mean, how good is that? Like, Zach Wheeler's had better years than that. So, I'm looking at upside. I'm looking at what could be the best version of this player. I don't think the best version of Odorizzi is that great. Like, it's not as good as what the Braves have. That's just my opinion. You know, I'm sure you guys definitely feel different about that. The idea of there not being a DH definitely impacts some players like Marcell Ozuna and Kyle Schwarber and some other free agents who are guys that they're known for their hitting. They're not exactly the greatest defenders, and they don't play that many positions. So, their best role on a team would be designated hitter. And the fact that there's not going to be a DH in the National League, that really hurts Marcell Ozuna because that limits the amount of suitors of teams that could potentially be interested in him. Another important part of this aspect is the MLB said that no final decision has been made. So they're saying it looks like there won't be a DH, but no final decision has been made. Could you imagine if a lot of free agent signings happening and teams like, okay, we feel like we accomplished what we wanted to do. Then all of a sudden MLB's like, you know what? There is going to be a DH. Team's going to be like, wait a minute, why didn't you tell us that beforehand, before we went and signed all these players? You know, if we knew there was going to be a DH, we would have done some things differently. So it hurts teams. It hurts definitely the players a lot more. Just this uncertainty of the whole thing about it. I see why people like the DH. It definitely adds another element. It adds more excitement to the National League game. For me, I just like the tradition of having the pitcher bat. It's just, you know, old school baseball, and that's the way I like it because, you know, with all these rule changes and these replays, more and more it does not feel like the original baseball that we all know and love. It feels different. And having the DH in the National League, it makes it feel different for me as a Met fan watching the Mets. It definitely is a different experience. So I don't mind having the pitcher. I'm perfectly fine with it. It seems like the DH is inevitable anyway, But, I mean, if we're going to go another year without it, then so be it. But who knows? Maybe this is a short season again. Maybe this is another weird season because we still don't really have a full safety in the way sports could operate with having, full attendance and full travel and things like that. The whole country is definitely still struggling, keeping this pandemic intact. So that definitely is another thing to keep in mind, where will there be a DH, will there not be a DH? It might be something that could come out later on if it looks like we're going to have another season like 2020. Now let's talk about the Trevor Bauer report. I definitely think that this is a good sign for the Mets, the fact that they still have a very good chance at signing Trevor Bauer. So for me, if Bauer wants you, if you want the Bauer, get the deal done. I know that it's going to cost a lot of money. I don't know if Bauer's looking for the 1-year deal or the 8-year deal, maybe even the 10-year deal. I don't know. Nobody really knows the exact numbers that Trevor Bauer is looking for. But I think that, the Mets have the money. If Bauer wants to be here, make it happen. I just think that he could help this team out so much because we know how they struggled with starting pitching last year. And he would just be a big upgrade over what they have. And you need starting pitching. I made a whole video, 5 reasons why the Mets should sign Trevor Bauer. But there's more than 5 reasons. It just makes this Mets team so much better. Because if you sign Bauer and maybe another starting pitcher just as like a placeholder until Noah comes back, allowing Lugo to be back in the bullpen when you just signed Trevor May. I mean, the fact that you can have a 7, 8, 9 of May, Lugo, Diaz, that's a pretty good back end of the bullpen, which is something that the Mets have not had. And it just makes your team more like a playoff team because then it allows your starting pitchers like a Bauer, he only needs to go 6 innings because then 7, 8, 9, boom, game over. And if you could just have that kind of method and that recipe for success, that's what makes you a playoff team. That is how teams win championships. Steve Cohen said he wants to win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. And the main way you do that is with pitching, particularly starting pitching. And Trevor Bauer's out there. He wants to be on your team. Get him on the team. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. I know other people feel differently. But again, for me, it's like Tanaka is not as good as Bauer. Again, I don't like Odorizzi as much as Bauer. I don't like Kluber because Kluber has had a lot of consistency lately. He's been hurt a lot. We don't know if we could get that Cy Young Kluber again. We don't know if that pitcher is still there because we saw how with Matt Harvey. Amazing. Some injuries. The guy can't even get a signing now. The team doesn't want Matt Harvey anymore after how great he was not that long ago. So, I mean, that's the way baseball can work. 1 injury, 2 injuries here or there, you're not the same pitcher. So I can't take that risk with Kluber. And Bauer's a risk, no doubt about it, but I still think that Trevor Bauer could be good enough. Even if he's not a guy who has an ERA under 2, you just feel that he's showing some signs of improvement. He's talking about how he's changing it analytically, changing his pitch selection, things like that. That's how you become a better pitcher. You improve. It seems like DeGrom has been improving as time progresses, so you hope that the same can happen with Bauer. Who knows? Maybe being with a DeGrom, he could teach Bauer a few things that he'd make him a better pitcher as well. You never know. And Jeremy Hefner is this amazing pitching coach that, like, oh my gosh, we need to sign every single Twins pitcher. We need Trevor May. We need Odorizzi. We need all these Twins pitchers because Jeremy Hefner is such an amazing pitching coach that he should be able to keep Bauer a Cy Young caliber pitcher, right? But I'm just excited that Trevor Bauer is on the Mets radar. He's on my wish list, so hopefully we can get him here. And until the next one, be safe, be smart, be healthy, and let's go Mets.